everyone, today I want to do like an actual comprehensive deck tech on the Flexmark Harrigan deck that I unironically think is the strongest character in the game other than a Gloria Goldberg. I should put a slight asterisk there. Infinite combos are banned, it's a cooperative game, infinite combos are just robbing you and your team of the experience at the table. In terms of characters that are not Gloria or infinite combos, I think nothing is stronger than Flexmark. And this level 0 deck is not actually super impressive, I will admit. This is basically a fighter mark that just runs Winging It and uses Sophie and Perception to brute force a couple of clues every couple of turns, and it is a very, very fight-leaned flex at the start of the game. However, it is also true that there are a lot of fighters in the game that have rough scenario 1s but get really strong later. Finn Edwards is a great example of this. It's generally true of rogue fighters, where later on they're super consistent and reliable and strong, but they really like having a fighter that can flex in general, and especially in scenario 1 before they get some core buys like Black Market and Dirty Fighting. Underworld Market, sorry. Underworld support, Underworld Market, Black Market, it's hard to keep it straight. But let's get back to this Mark deck. There is a place in team rosters for a flex leaned fight that is a leaned fight super hard in scenario 1. And when we go up to the next deck, I guess I should fully cover this deck first. It might look a little bit weird right now. You'll notice I run every single neutral skill. This is to cycle my deck at a breakneck pace. I'm also planning on tapping Sophie literally non-stop to trigger my ability and draw a absolute shitload of cards, which I will be healing with Second Wind and Hallowed Mirror. Now, that's not super efficient. As a fighter, you frequently find that you can't play Second Wind, and that's one of the beautiful things about Flexmark, is that you get to say, I'm not the main fighter. I can stop and heal myself and play inefficiently right now on the promise that I'm gonna have huge burst actions later that are super valuable and worth it for my team. So simultaneously, this is just helping everyone on your team by making sure that Mark does every scenario test, by making sure that whatever scenario test they get that's hard, or sorry, Mythos test, they can give it Guts or Manual Dex. And if you fail, they can soak it with Tetsuo, or you can heal it with Hallowed Mirror, because typically you don't need to use all of the soothing melodies on yourself. You have time to help somebody else out, you have shortcuts as well, you have Stand Together as your economy to help your team. There's a lot of team support going on even at level 0, and the action compression of Safeguard can never be overstated, legitimately probably the best card in the game. So at level 0, this is not getting that many clues, but you can see the start of the team support thing here. And I'm gonna go through the upgrade path bit by bit, but I wanna show you what we're building towards, the final build first. This is the final 48 experience deck that I had in Return to Circle Undone. First things first, this is the premier abuser of Runic Axe. We are running this with Inscription of the Elders, so if you succeed by Shroud value, you can get a clue. Inscription of Glory, so I can draw cards or heal myself, because very frequently any of those things will be good. If I'm not set up or need a specific card, I'll draw. If I would like to heal myself without spending an action, I'll use this. And then the other pip here doesn't matter. I think I considered getting Heirloom and it just wasn't worth it. It didn't matter to me at all. I always found something else to do. But the big two are Ancient Power and Script Weaver, meaning you can use the same inscription 3 times, and every time you use an inscription, you get a second inscription for free. So what you're doing here on Mark is you attack with your base 5, you tap Sophie at 7, and then you use as much accuracy as you need with Ancient Power and Script Weaver to beat the bag by Shroud. Then you tap Elders 3 times with that Script Weaver, and you use enough damage to kill the enemy. This will usually take at least 3 charges on your axe. You'll be like accuracy, accuracy, damage, and then on your Script Weave, you'll be like damage, Elders, Elders. And that is, like, you're not doing it again for a while, but what that says is unless you draw autofail, you just killed a 3 health enemy and got 2 clues as 1 action. The burst clue finding of Runic Axe is incredible, and in Mark specifically, you can beat the bag so reliably with Elders without spending all 4 of your charges that you're able to do some really, really really gross clue finding. Now, that's just the thing we're using as our baseline, right? Mark is the best at using Runic Axe, and his insane draw makes him the best at finding it. What else are we doing? The reason we have all of these neutral skills down here is because we're actually a Bestow Resolve deck. Bestow Resolve allows you to commit as a lightning bolt a skill to an investigator at your location or a connecting location, and you treat all of its icons as question marks. Now, that is not the same thing as committing a skill during a test. If you go to the skill timing window, I'm not gonna bring it up here, but one of the first things you do is there's a lightning bolt window, then there's a thing that says every investigator may commit 1 skill card to the test with appropriate icons, and then there's another lightning bolt window. you can commit a skill like Manual Dex on Rotting Remains, on Grasping Hands. And then after that, in the Lightning Bolt window, you can also bestow Resolve Perception into that Mythos test. Promise of Power is good, but when you use 2 cards together with Bestow Resolve, and instead of adding a curse, you draw 2 cards, you start drawing through your deck at a breakneck pace. Because you run all of these neutral skills, you're able to draw very, very rapidly. Bestow Resolve allows you to get them cycled very, very quickly. Because you're running Bestow Resolve, even if your teammates don't need help, you're just committing Perception to punch checks on Runic Axe to save charges instead of using accuracy. And it's very important that this deck runs Brandigaga. A, it's the only way to have a reliable backup weapon with an axe in your hands other than Bandolier setups, but B, you need to cycle your Bestow Resolves. You need to be able to do this forever, so if you only have 2 and no other arcane assets, you get them stuck in play and can't get rid of them. You need a Brandigaga to destroy your used up Bestow Resolve and cycle it into your next deck, because you better believe this Mark Harrigan's gonna shuffle his deck and take horror at least once every scenario. We're obviously still running 2 copies of Shortcut, the card's nuts, but you can see we dropped down to 1 Winging It. I found that I typically always had both Winging It's in my discard pile and never had the time to play both of them. Additionally, I was getting most of my clues through Runic Axe, and I didn't have much use for Winging It. I could pass the check, right? Like, I test with Sophie at 4, I commit, not Overpower, I commit Perception to be at 6, Winging It lowers the Shroud, so I'm functionally investigating at 7, and if I wanted to, I could Bestow to be at 9. Like, you can do the Winging It check, I just found that you consistently didn't need it. And we still have all that healing stuff I was talking about where you have like, you spend 1 action, kill a 5 health enemy and get 3 clues. You can just shit around for 2 turns, and that 1 action was enough for you to do 2 turns worth of power as a flex. You have tons of time to Hallowed Mirror yourself to heal your teammates. And later on, I ended up building into Garish for even more team value. I can give anyone +6 to any Mythos test. I'll just drag you kicking and screaming to the Mythos phase, don't you worry, Finn. It's really, really brutally efficient how much team support and how much boost this gives to your allies during the Mythos phase. Shortcut being cycled nonstop is just obvious power. The sheer efficiency of Runic Axe and the way that Mark uses it is very, very degenerate. So this is what we're going for. I probably would not normally upgrade Vicious Blow 2, by the way. We were in Circle Undone, Mindless Dancer is a card you have to care about. So being able to reliably one-tap the Mindless Dancers felt more important than, drawing faster with Overpower. So this is what we're building for. This is the unreasonable nonsense that I think is legitimately the strongest character in the game. Other than Gloria, because she just tells the game it doesn't get to play. Only 5-head Mystics draw Rotting Remains, no one draws Deep Wind Bowl, blah, blah, blah. You understand why Gloria's broken, but this is actually playing the game, and it's making your team so strong. No scenario test will ever stop you. No teammate that's next to you will ever be vulnerable to the Mythos phase. You will do insane clue compression with the Runic Axe to more than carry your weight. And then it's not just the Runic Axe, you're killing dudes with Brandigaga, you're investigating with Winging It. You're an incredibly useful, high utility character that can do anything, and your action compression is just nuts, because let's not forget, you will draw this 1-up safeguard very quickly, and then you are just never spending an action to move ever again. Unless you need to drag a rat to a location with clues on it, which unironically happened to me like a couple of times, because that's just how it is. You'll be like, no, fighter, don't kill that rat. You engage the rat, move away from everyone with safeguard, and then kill the rat somewhere else for clues, which is stupid but efficient. So this is what we're building for. When you look at this show and it's not super efficient at flex, and we're on all these neutral skills and it doesn't quite make sense, it's because when you go to the next deck, all right, this one's not gonna be a great example. You can see that we just immediately upgrade the shit out of Runic Axe because it's the thing the deck is built around, and get our Brandigaga. God, we got absolute full experience. Easiest Piper of Azathoth kill of my life, by the way, that's not true. We barely got through a Piper of Azathoth. Even Flexmark struggles on that guy. He has a ton of fists, and this deck's not great at overpowering fist checks. However, the important thing here is you obviously go for Runic Axe first. It's the thing the whole deck is built around. It's absolutely nuts. And one of the best things about Runic Axe, by the way, is that you can upgrade it incrementally. You can do things like, oh, I've only got 5 experience. I'll take Ancient Power and Elders, and it's not the best, but I can then get 1 Brandigaga. You can incrementally build into it in lower experience campaigns or worse scenarios. But then going into the next deck is when we start getting to actual really interesting things, where as opposed to just upgrading Runic Axe, which is mandatory for the deck, all right, it's not as interesting. You do stick to the plan because it's brutally efficient. You always do stick to the plan. But I promise by halfway through the campaign, we get this shit online and we're running Bestow Resolves. If your team needed Bestow Resolve more, or you believed differently about the game, upgrading this first, all right, not first, but before Stick to the Plan wouldn't necessarily be wrong. And there's an argument in specifically Mark that instead of going for Stick to the Plan, you should just like, you know, draw your whole deck. It's not a problem. You don't need to spend this experience. I'm of the opinion that drawing Runic Axe first turn is insanely important, and Stick to the Plan makes that more likely to happen and more likely to be paid for, which is why I run it. But it's worth noting that Mark Harrigan is one of the very few characters that can bypass that weakness, necessity of upgrade path. I don't know how to describe it. Coming to the next deck, you can see something I've just forgotten to talk about up till now. It's Stand Together level 3, another insane support card, but it's just like in common with a lot of Guardians. And as we continue to upgrade, there's another thing that I didn't realize when I should have talked about it. That was a low experience scenario, just upgrade Overpower and E-Cash. This is Garish and Charisma, because of course I do that at some point. Apparently I don't get to do it until very, very late in the scenario. In fact, the last one, I took Ever Vigilant 4 to give it to my teammates, because I consistently found that my teammates, being a Finn and some setup heavy character who I forget, they really needed this Ever Vigilant more than I did, and it's just really cool to be playing a Mark where upgrading Ever Vigilant instead of my main game plan was fine. On the whole, I felt like beyond going first upgrade Runic Axe, I could upgrade this deck in any order I wanted, and even in the early scenarios, I was consistently cycling everything, right? I'm investigating with Winging It, or next to a Seeker, I give Perception, I hit somebody, I use Overpower, Mythos Phase, somebody can use Guts and manual decks. You don't need Bestow Resolve for those cards to still be pretty alright, and it's worth noting that with Mark's stat line and Sophie, you can use every single one of these yourself to cycle very quickly, even before Bestow's online. This deck cycles faster than any non-Amanda deck in the game, maybe not Harvey, but for a fighter flex character, this is stupidly fast draw. The amount of team support you have with Bestow Resolve, all of these skills, Stand Together and Shortcut, Garish, Tatsuo, Hallowed Mirror, it's absolutely wild. Your team feels invincible, the scenario cannot stop you, it can't be like, oh, the door's locked, Mark's like, oh, you don't say. Anyway, I test 10 to 4 and draw 3 cards. This deck's just degenerate raw power. There's very few things I feel come even close to this in terms of efficiency, and I wanted to show this off, and it's all on video. So when the tier list goes live and I say Mark Harrigan is one of the very best characters in the game, you have some frame of reference for what the hell I'm talking about. Anyways, that's it for now. I've been Rather Incoherent. This has been Flex Mark Harrigan, an absolute menace, brutally efficient. I cannot overstate just how much I love this deck. I hope if you aren't planning on playing it, you at least think it was a cool deck and you're hyped to have seen it. Anyways, for now, I'm done. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, Evan and Jeffrey B, and I'll see you in the next one.